Well, hey everybody, Mr. E's back with you. And in this video, I'm going to work through the Module 8 quiz from the Math 6 textbook on percents as we prepare for our quiz on percents and problem solving with percents. All right, so let's start off now with some review material from Module 8.1. Sorry about that. Understanding percent. So remember, percent is a ratio where the denominator is 100. All right, so if I say I have, for example, 13%, that means that I have a ratio of 13 out of 100, 13 per 100, as we often say. So if I give you a ratio where the denominator is not 100, if we can change it to 100, then that top number will be our percent, right? So we want to know 19 over 50 would be what over 100, or 13 over 20 would be what over 100. All right, well, there's several different ways to do this. For numbers that are easy like this, 50 goes into 100 two times. So this is one really that we should just use this method on and say, well, since 50 is twice of 100, I need to do 19 times 2. And 19 times 2 is 38. So 19 over 50 is 38%. Now what I have right here is a grid that is 10 by 10. So if I were to draw a line, if I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I cut that in half, then I get two sections that are each 50, right? So let me go ahead and color this in. 19, that would be 10, right? And then that would be another 9, and that would be 19, and then I would do that twice, right? And so what would I get? I would get 19 on the top part, and I'd get 19 on the bottom part, and that of course gives me my 38%. 38 out of 100. Excuse me, not 38 out of 50. 38 out of 100, which is 38%. So this process of multiplying both of them by 2 is what I did here, right? I multiplied the entire top by 2 and the shaded part by 2. And I got 38%. All right, just so you know, another option is you can take any ratio and you could divide the numerator by the denominator, 19 divided by 50, and that will give you the decimal. All right, so 19 divided by 50 gives me 0.38, and that's going to be equivalent to 38%, because to change a decimal to a percent, you move it 2 places to the right. Okay, so that's several different ways we could get the answer there. Now 13 out of 20, a little bit more challenging, but we really should know that 20 goes into 100 evenly. In fact, it goes in 5 times. So if I multiply that denominator times 5, I can multiply that numerator times 5, right? So I get 13 times 5. All right, well, 5 times 10 would be 50, plus another 5 times 3 is 15. I get 65. So that is 65%. Okay, if we wanted to go with the wet method of drawing it out, well, 20, there's 2 rows of 10 there. There's 20, 40, right? And then we have 60, and then 80, and then 100, right? If I draw the line there, right? And I can even put the line at the top. So you can see there are 5 sections, and in each of those sections, we want 13 colored in, right? So there would be 10, and then 3, and then 10, and then 3, and then 10, and 3, and 10, and 3, and 10, and 3, right? So I have 13 colored in here, 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 right? And I get that 13 times 5, which is 65. That's the part that's colored in over the total is 100. Okay, again, the other option is to take 13 and divide it by 20, because anytime you have a fraction and you do the numerator, 13, divided by the denominator, that changes it to a decimal, 0.65. And then once you have the decimal, again, if you move the decimal 2 places to the right, then you will get a percent. So 65% is equivalent to 13 over 20, just like 19 over 50 was equivalent to 38%. Okay, so that's 3 different ways you can show how to convert those ratios or fractions to a percent. All right, now it's asking us to write each number in equivalent forms. Now, what are these forms that they are talking about? All right, what do we have? We have a ratio, all right, which we're writing as a fraction, okay? And then we have a decimal, and then we have a percent. So those are the 3 different ways we're going to represent each of these. Now they're going to be giving us one of the 3, and they're asking us for 2 equivalent forms. All right, so on this first one, they gave us a fraction, 3 out of 5. All right, now if we want it as a decimal, remember decimals are powers of 10. Do you understand? I could take 5 and multiply by 2 and 3 by 2, and I would get 6 out of 10, which is 0.6, right? And percent is out of 100, and then if I take that, right, this was times 2. If I do this times 10 and I do that times 10, then what I end up with is 60 over 100, which is 60%. All right. So again, decimals are powers of 10. Percent is always out of 100. So if the numbers are nice and clean, you could just do it that way. But just a reminder, you can always use your calculator. The numerator divided by the denominator, there we get that 0.6. And then if we move the decimal, if I have 0.6, and if I move the decimal 2 places to the right, 1, 2, I'm going to have to fill that space in with a 0. There's my 60%. Okay? All right, what about this one? I know 4 is over here, but I'm going to do this one next. 0.24. All right, well, 0.24, that's 24 over 100. Remember, the first place is the tenths place. The second place is the hundredths place. So 24 over 100 would be a correct equivalent form. Now, many times they're going to ask for it in simplest form. So if they ask for it in the simplest form, then I would divide both of those by 4, right? And 24 divided by 4 would give me 6, and 100 divided by 4 would give me 25. So those are 2 different fractional ways to represent that value. This one is not simplified, but it is correct. This one is simplified and is also correct. And finally, as a percent, well, here it is right here. Remember, percent is when the denominator is 100, so this one would be 24%. All right, and just a way of checking that our 6 out of 25 is correct, if we took that 6 and divided it by 25, we get that 0.24. So that proves that that 625 is equivalent to 0.24. There we go. All right. Okay, what about 62.5%? Well, first thing I'm going to do is change to a decimal. So we've been saying to change a decimal to a percent, you go 2 to the right. To change a percent to a decimal, you go 2 to the left. All right? So 62.5% is going to be 0.625. 62.5% is going to be 0.625 because we move it 2 places to the left. All right, now as a fraction, that would be 625 over 1,000. 625 over 1,000, right? Because that is the tenths place, that's the hundredths place, and that's the thousandths place. Now again, that would be a fraction answer. That would be correct since it didn't say it had to be simplified, but many times they will ask you for it to be simplified. All right, so if we divide both of these by 25, just think of this as quarters. If this were $6.25 and you were breaking it up into quarters, how many quarters would you have? Well, every dollar is 4 quarters, right? So that'd be 24, that'd be 25 quarters, right? And $10, that would be 40 quarters. But take a look, I can actually do this again because I can divide both of these still, can't I? I could divide both of these by 5 still, and that's going to give me 5 over 8. All right, so 625 over 1,000 is an equivalent fraction. 25 over 40 is an equivalent fraction. But if you need it simplified, you got to go all the way down to 5/8. Really, what I should have done is just divided by 125 in the first place, because dividing by 25 and then dividing by 5 is the same as dividing by 125. And again, if I go back to my calculator, which I managed to close again, I do it all the time. I close it out without remembering I'm going to need it again. All right, let me clear all this out. If I go 5 divided by 8, what do I get? I get that 0.625. So that proves that that simplified fraction is actually a correct fraction. All right, finally, 31 out of 50. Well, again, 31 out of 50. If we make the denominator 100, we can quickly see that I can multiply by 2. 50s are pretty straightforward because you just got to double it. And what do I get? I get 62 out of 100. Well, 62 hundredths as a decimal is 0.62, and 62 hundredths as a percent is 62%. All right, so there it is as a fraction. There it is as a decimal, and there it is as a percent. Those are the 3 different ways, ratio or fraction, decimal, and percent, to represent these equivalent numbers. All right? Okay, then we got to, in lesson 8.3, solving percent problems. Solving percent problems. Now, I do want to remind you of something we went over. All right, it's this proportional reasoning method. We know that percent is always over 100, and we're comparing that to a part over a whole. All right, a percent is where the whole part is always 100. Well, in many situations, that whole part can be a lot of different things. And then we have the part of 100 would give us the percent. The part of the whole is what we have there. All right, and just a reminder, if you're looking, and sometimes it's not always easy to see which is the part and which is the whole, the is over the of gives us the clue. The is a key that we have part of it, and the of the whole. All right, okay, so 12 is 30% of. So I'm going to go ahead and set up my ratio here. All right, I always think the percent part is easiest, so I know that 30% is 30 over 100. Notice the of we don't know, so that's our question mark there. We do know 12 is. All right, so there we go. 12 is 30% of something. What is that whole part? All right, now here's where we would want to say, is there something I could multiply 12 by to get to 30? And of course, it does not go evenly, but the great thing is many times these fractions will simplify down, and this one is no exception. 30 over 100 simplifies to 3/10, right? So my new thing I'm trying to solve is 12 over what is 3 over 10. And now using that proportional reasoning, 12 is 4 times as big, right? So this one is going to have to be 4 times as big. So it's 12 is 30% of what? 10 times 4 is 40. So what are we saying? Having 12 out of 40 is the same as having 30 out of 100. And again, if you wanted to use your calculator to check your answer, let me see. What's 12 divided by 40? 12 divided by 40 is 0.3, which we know is 30%. So 12 is 30% of. I'm going to go ahead and erase my question mark because now I know that 12 is 30% of 40. All right? 45% of 20 is. All right, so here we go again. I'm going to set it up here. My percent is 45, right? Percent over 100 of 20. So now that 20 goes on the bottom, and this is what we don't know, right? The is part on the top. Okay. All right. Now, fortunately, this one, 20 goes into 100 how many times? 5 times. So we say what times 5 is 45? Well, it's 9. It's 9, right? 9 times 5 is 45. So that answer that we're looking for right here is 9, right? So what are we saying? We're saying that 9 over 20 is equivalent to 45 over 100, right? 45% is 45 out of 100. How many would you need out of 20 to have that same percentage? And again, if I go to my calculator, if I go 9 divided by 20, I can see that I get that same result of 0.45, which is 45 hundredths or 45%. Okay, what about this one? 18 is blank percent of 30. All right, well, this one, you know what, let me go ahead and I'm going to erase these things I did for the last two problems. I'm going to leave this part up here. The is over the of equals the part over the whole, which equals the percent over 100. And now I'm going to write this one right here. Okay, now this time we don't know the percent, so that's the part we don't know. We do know 18 is the part of 30, right? So 18 over 30 is what over 100? Now again, what do we want? We want to know, what do I have to do to this ratio to make it equivalent to that one? Now 30 does not go into 100 evenly, but once again we can always try to simplify those ratios. All right, and I'm going to come down here and ask you, what does 18 over 30 simplify to? Well, I can divide both of those by what? I can divide both of those by 3. I can also divide both of those by 6, right? 18 divided by 6 is going to give me 3, and 30 divided by 6 is going to give me 5. Now I have a number that goes into 100 evenly. 5 times 20 is equal to 100. 3 times 20 is equal to 60. So what do we know? We know that 18 is 60% of 30. 18 is 60% of 30. And again, if I went to my handy dandy calculator, if I went to here, if I did 18 divided by 30, what do I get? 18 divided by 30 is 0.6, which is 60%. All right? All right, one last one here. 56 is 80% of what? All right, so I'm going to come up here. Once again, they gave me the percent. I always like to do that one first when I can. 80 over 100, 56 is, so that's going to go on the top. 56 over what? Okay, again, 56 does not go into 80 evenly, does it? So what am I going to do? I'm going to say, can I simplify either one of these? Well, I can simplify this one by dividing by 10, right? And when I divide that by 10, I get 8 over 10 is equal to 56 over something. And now I can see that number is 7 times bigger. And if that number is 7 times bigger, that number has to be 7 times bigger. So that question mark that I didn't know, 10 times 7 is 70. So what am I saying? Having 56 out of 70 is the same as having 80 out of 100. So again, I did it again. I closed my calculator. I hit the X instead of the subtractor, the little minimize bar, right? I need to use that one and not that one. Okay, let me hide all that. Let me clear that out. I just want to prove that having 56 as my part and 70 as my whole is equivalent to having 80 out of 100, right? That's 0.8. That's 8 tenths, and 8 tenths is the same as 80 out of 100. All right. Okay, I hope that helps you with those problems from 8.3. There's actually one more problem. Come on, go away. One more problem in 8.3. Let's do this one. A pack of cinnamon-scented pencils, yum, sells for $4. What is the sales tax rate if the total cost of the pencils is $4.32? So let me ask you, if I take that $4.32 and I subtract the $4 from it, what do I get? I get 0.32. So the question becomes, and I'm going to change this to cents, 32 is what percent of 400, right? 32 cents is what percent of 400? 400. If we wanted to do it in dollars, we would do this. 0.32 is what percent of 4.0, but I'm doing it in cents to make it easier so we don't have to work with those decimals. So what do we have if we're going to solve this right here? It's the percent that we don't know. So if I write the ratio, the one I like to start with, I can't start with because I don't know the percent, but I do know that denominator is always 100. All right, 32 is, so here's my 32 on top. What percent of 400? All right, and now I really am liking this because 100 goes into 400 4 times. So the question is, what do I multiply by 4 to get 32? Or what's 32 divided by 4? And 32 divided by 4 is 8. So what am I saying? I'm saying the sales tax was 8%. I'm saying 32 cents out of 400 cents is equivalent to 8 cents out of 100 cents, right? Or 8 cents for every dollar would make 32 cents for $4. That makes sense, right? Some of you are going, well, why didn't you just divide by 4? Couldn't that just be an easy way? And absolutely, you could have just mentally said, well, I've got $4. What would it be for $1? Because for $1, that's going to give you what your sales tax is. And it is 8%. All right, so that is the module quiz review for 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3. I hope that helps you as you seek to review for our quiz, which will cover Module 8 from the 6th grade textbook and Module 5 from the 7th grade textbook. All right, until next time, see ya.